Admiral Kate Morrison stood in the command center of Titan Station, staring at the massive screens that showed the outer edge of the solar system. The coffee in her hand had gone cold hours ago, but she barely noticed. What she was looking at made no sense at all. "Run the scan again," she told the young officer at the sensor station. "Yes, ma'am. Third scan confirms it. The ship is definitely there, and the identification codes match the USS Endeavour." Kate felt her stomach drop. The Endeavour had been gone for 15 years. She remembered the day it disappeared like it was yesterday. Captain Lisa Grant had taken her crew of 25 on a routine research mission to study the strange energy. Readings near the Vale Nebula. They were supposed to be back in 6 months. That was 15 years ago. Dr. Alex Chen hurried into the command center, his lab coat still covered in grease from whatever experiment he had been working on. As the station's chief physicist, Alex was the smartest person Kate knew. If anyone could make sense of this, it would be him. "Show me the data," Alex said, not bothering with greetings. The sensor officer pulled up the readings on the main screen. Alex studied them for several minutes, his face growing more confused with each passing second. "This is impossible," he said finally. "What exactly is impossible about it?" Kate asked. "Everything. Look at these speed readings. The ship came out of deep space moving at 97% light speed. That should have taken years to achieve, even with our best engines. But then look at this." He pointed to another set of numbers. It went from that speed to a complete stop in less than 4 minutes. Kate looked at the numbers, but they meant nothing to her. "Is that bad?" "Bad?" "Admiral, the acceleration forces from that kind of deceleration should have turned everyone on board into a thin paste on the back wall. No human could survive those forces, even with the best protection suits we have." The communication officer suddenly looked up from her station. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the Endeavour." Kate felt her heart skip a beat. "Put it through." The speakers crackled with static for a moment, then a familiar voice came through. It was older, more tired than Kate remembered, but it was definitely Lisa Grant. "Titan Station, this is Captain Lisa Grant of the USS Endeavour, requesting immediate docking clearance. We have urgent information about humanity's future that cannot wait." Kate grabbed the microphone. "Lisa, is that really you? Where have you been for 15 years? There was a long pause before Lisa answered. "It's me, Kate. And we've been further than you can imagine. We need to dock now. What we've learned changes everything." Dr. Chen was still staring at his readings. "Admiral, I'm detecting massive energy signatures from their ship. The power levels are off the charts. Whatever they're using for propulsion, it's not any technology I've ever seen." Kate made her decision quickly. "Grant the docking request. Dock them at Bay 7 and clear everyone else out of that section. I want a full security team standing by." "Should we scan their ship first?" asked the security chief. "No," Kate said. "If they wanted to hurt us, they could have done it already. Whatever technology they have clearly makes our weapons useless anyway." Over the next 2 hours, Kate watched as the Endeavour slowly approached the station. Even from a distance, she could see that something was wrong with the ship. It looked different somehow, though she couldn't put her finger on what had changed. Colonel Jake Martinez joined her at the observation window. Jake had been Lisa's boyfriend before she left on the mission. Kate knew this had to be hard for him. "She sounds different," Jake said quietly. "She's been gone for 15 years, Jake. People change. Not like this. Her voice. It's like she's thinking about every word before she says it. Lisa was never that careful with words." Kate had noticed the same thing, but she didn't want to worry Jake more than he already was. Let's just see what she has to say. The docking process took another hour. Kate had never seen a ship dock so smoothly. Usually, there were small bumps and adjustments as the pilots lined everything up. The Endeavour slid into the docking bay like it was on rails, with perfect precision. "Docking complete," announced the bay controller. "All seals are secure." Kate turned to her team. "Dr. Chen, Colonel Martinez, you're with me. Security Team Delta, follow us but keep your distance. Remember, these are our people." The walk to Docking Bay 7 felt like the longest walk of Kate's life. She had so many questions. Where had they been? What had happened to them? How had they survived 15 years with only 6 months of supplies? When they reached the airlock, Kate paused. Through the small window, she could see movement on the other side. She took a deep breath and pressed the button to open the door. The first thing that hit her was the smell. It wasn't bad, just different. Like ozone after a lightning storm, but mixed with something else she couldn't identify. Captain Lisa Grant stepped through the airlock, and Kate's breath caught in her throat. Lisa looked older, but not 15 years older, maybe 5 years at most. Her hair was still the same brown color, but now it had streaks of silver running through it. Her skin looked perfect, without a single wrinkle or blemish. But it was her eyes that really caught Kate's attention. They were still blue, but now they had tiny flecks of silver in them that seemed to move and shift when she looked at them. "Hello, Kate," Lisa said, and her voice was exactly as Jake had described it. "Too careful, too measured. Lisa, my God, what happened to you? Where have you been?" Lisa smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "We found something, Kate. Or maybe it found us. Either way, everything we thought we knew about the universe is wrong." Behind Lisa, other crew members were stepping through the airlock. Kate recognized some of them, but they all had the same strange changes. The silver eyes, the too perfect skin, the way they moved like dancers. "How many of you came back?" Kate asked. 12, Lisa said. "We lost 13 during the process." "What process?" Lisa looked directly at Kate, and for a moment her careful mask slipped. Kate saw something in her eyes that looked almost like fear. "The process of becoming something more than human," Lisa said. "And the reason we came back is to warn you. Humanity has less than 200 years left, and we're the only ones who know how to save our species." Kate felt the world spinning around her. Nothing made sense anymore. "I think we need to talk," she said. Kate led the group to Conference Room Alpha, the most secure meeting space on Titan Station. As they walked through the corridors, she noticed how the Endeavour crew moved. They didn't walk like normal people. Their steps were too smooth, too coordinated. It was like watching a group of people who had learned to move by studying dance videos instead of just walking naturally. Dr. Chen kept glancing at his scanner, frowning at whatever readings he was getting. Colonel Martinez stayed, close to Kate, his hand resting on his sidearm out of habit. Once everyone was seated, Kate looked around the table at the 12 survivors. She recognized most of them, but they all seemed like slightly wrong versions of people she had known. Their faces were familiar, but somehow different, like looking at relatives instead of the actual people. "Before we talk about anything else," Kate said, "I need to know what happened to the other 13 crew members." Lisa's expression didn't change, but Kate saw something flicker in those strange, silver-flecked eyes. "They didn't survive the enhancement process. We tried to save them, but their bodies rejected the changes. What enhancement process? Dr. Chen leaned forward, his scientific curiosity overriding his caution. It's hard to explain in words you'll understand, said Dr. Ryan Moore, who had been the Endeavor's science officer. His voice had the same careful quality as Lisa's. We encountered something beyond the Veil Nebula. Not aliens exactly. Something that used to be human but became much more. Kate felt a chill run down her spine. Used to be human? They called themselves the Forerunners, Lisa said. They were humans who left Earth millions of years ago. They evolved beyond the need for physical bodies, beyond the limitations of normal space and time. Colonel Martinez spoke up for the first time. That's impossible. Humans have only been in space for a few hundred years. Lisa turned to look at him, and Kate saw Jake flinch slightly at her gaze. Jake, what we thought we knew about human history is completely wrong. The Forerunners seeded life on Earth after they left. We're not their descendants. We're their younger siblings, created to follow the same path they took. Dr. Chen was practically vibrating with excitement. You're saying there was an advanced human civilization millions of years ago? Where's the evidence? Where are the ruins, the artifacts? They transcended physical matter, Ryan said. They exist in higher dimensions now. But they left us something to help us join them. He gestured toward the corridor that led back to the docking bay. Our ship has been completely transformed by their technology. Kate decided she needed to see this for herself. Show me. The group made their way back to Docking Bay 7. When Kate stepped aboard the Endeavor, she immediately understood why the air had smelled strange. The walls weren't made of metal anymore. They looked like metal, but when she touched one, it felt warm and slightly soft, like skin. The ship is alive now, Lisa explained, noticing Kate's expression. The Forerunner technology doesn't just change machines. It changes everything it touches, making it part of a larger living system. They walked through corridors that Kate remembered from 15 years ago, but everything was different. The walls seemed to pulse slightly, and doorways opened without anyone touching any controls. It was as if the ship knew where they wanted to go and was helping them get there. Dr. Chen was taking readings with every instrument he had, muttering to himself as the numbers grew more and more impossible. When they reached the engine room, Kate stopped walking entirely. Where the fusion reactor used to be, there was now a massive crystal structure that seemed to exist in more than 3 dimensions. It hurt to look at directly, like trying to focus on something that was both very close and very far away at the same time. What is that thing? She asked. The Forerunners called it a reality drive, Ryan said. It doesn't just bend space and time like our old engines. It actually changes the laws of physics in a localized area around the ship. Dr. Chen had gone completely pale. That's why you could decelerate so quickly. You weren't fighting against the laws of physics. You were rewriting them. Exactly, Lisa said. But the technology only works with human neural patterns. The Forerunners designed it specifically for us. It won't respond to any other species. Kate was trying to process everything she was hearing. Why? Why would they do all this? Lisa's careful mask slipped again, and Kate saw real emotion in her eyes for the first time since she had returned. It looked like sadness mixed with fear. Because humanity is doomed, Lisa said quietly. In approximately 180 years, something called the Silence will sweep through this part of the galaxy. It's a wave of dark energy that extinguishes stars and makes space travel impossible. Every world in its path becomes uninhabitable. The Room went completely quiet. Kate could hear her own heartbeat. The Forerunners survived the silence by transcending physical existence, Ryan continued. But they've been watching us, hoping we could find another way. The reality drive technology is their gift to us. It's the only thing that can push back the silence and save our species. Colonel Martinez found his voice first. What's the catch? There's always a catch with this kind of power. Lisa looked directly at him, and Kate saw Jake take a step backward. The catch is that using the technology changes you. To interface with a reality drive, you have to undergo the enhancement process. And once you do, you're not entirely human anymore. Kate looked around at the 12 survivors, really seeing them for the first time. The silver eyes, the perfect skin, the way they moved and spoke. They weren't just changed. They were becoming something else entirely. How much of you is still human? She asked. Lisa was quiet for a long moment. I don't know, she said finally. Sometimes I remember what it felt like to be fully human, but it's like trying to remember a dream. The emotions are still there, but they're distant. Dr. Chen was studying his readings again. Admiral, I'm detecting massive energy fluctuations throughout the ship. Whatever this reality drive is, it's growing. The crystalline structure is slowly converting more of the ship's hull. It's not just the ship, Ryan said. The process affects everything around it over time. The longer we stay here, the more the station itself will begin to change. Kate felt like the floor was falling out from under her. Are you saying your presence here is dangerous? Not dangerous, Lisa said. Transformative. The technology spreads, slowly, converting matter and energy into more efficient forms. Eventually, everything touched by it becomes part of the larger system. You mean it's infectious? Jake said, his voice tight with anger and fear. It's evolution, Lisa replied. The next step in human development. The Forerunners wanted to give us a choice they never had. We can embrace the change and save our species, or we can remain human and face extinction when the silence comes. Kate looked around at her old friends, these people who were no longer quite people, and realized that the choice might already be made for them. Just being near the Endeavor was starting the process. She could feel something different in the air, a subtle change in how her thoughts were flowing. How long do we have to decide? She asked. Lisa's silver-flecked eyes met hers. The process has already begun, Kate. The question isn't whether humanity will change. The question is whether we'll guide that change or let it happen randomly. Kate felt the weight of the entire human species settling on her shoulders. In the space of a few hours, everything she thought she knew about reality had been turned upside down. And now she had to make a choice that would determine the future of every human being alive. She looked at the impossible crystal structure, pulsing with alien light, and wondered if saving humanity was worth losing what made them human in the first place. Dr. Chen spent the next 3 days running every test he could think of on the Endeavor's reality drive. Each result was more impossible than the last. The crystalline structure seemed to exist in 11 dimensions simultaneously, and the energy readings changed depending on who was taking the measurements. It's like the thing is reading our minds, he told Kate during one of their daily briefings. When I approach it thinking about propulsion, it shows energy patterns consistent with faster-than-light travel. When I think about weapons, it displays completely different readings. Kate rubbed her temples, trying to fight off another headache. Ever since boarding the Endeavor, she had been getting these strange headaches, and her thoughts felt different, somehow. Sharper, but also more detached. "Have you figured out how it works?" she asked. "That's just it, Admiral. It doesn't work according to any physical laws I understand. The crystal seems to convince the universe that physics works differently in its immediate area. It's not generating energy. It's rewriting the rules about what energy can and cannot do." Captain Grant had been sharing more information about their encounter with the Forerunners over the past few days. The story she told was incredible, but the evidence was impossible to ignore. According to Lisa, the Endeavour had been pulled out of normal space by a massive structure hidden in the Veil Nebula. The structure was bigger than Earth's moon, but completely invisible to normal sensors. Inside, they had met beings that claimed to be the original human species. "They didn't look like us anymore," Lisa explained during one of their meetings. "They had evolved beyond physical form. We could only see them when they chose to make themselves visible, and even then, they looked like shadows with eyes made of starlight." The Forerunners had shown the crew visions of Earth's true history. Millions of years ago, humans had achieved interstellar travel and spread across the galaxy, but they had also discovered the silence, a phenomenon that appeared every few million years to reset galactic civilization. "The silence isn't natural," Ryan added. "It's a consequence of physical matter becoming too complex, too advanced. When civilizations reach a certain level of technology, reality itself begins to break down. The only way to survive is to transcend physical existence entirely. But the original humans had made a different choice. Instead of all transcending together, some of them had stayed behind to guide the next generation. They had seeded primitive life on Earth and waited millions of years for new humans to evolve and develop their own civilization." Dr. Chen was fascinated by the implications. "So you're saying we're not the first human civilization? We're like a backup copy?" "More than that," Lisa said. "We're their attempt to find a better solution. The Forerunners hope that we can discover a way to survive the silence without losing our physical existence." Kate was struggling with the philosophical implications of all this. "But you've already undergone their enhancement process. Doesn't that mean we're following the same path they did?" Lisa's expression grew troubled. "The enhancement was necessary to operate their technology, but you're right to be concerned. Every day, I feel more distant from my human emotions. It's like watching my old self through thick glass." Commander Lisa Hayes, the station's intelligence officer, had been quietly investigating the Endeavour crew's claims. She approached Kate privately after the latest briefing. "Admiral, I've been analyzing their behavior patterns," Hayes said. "They're not lying, but they're not telling us everything either. Their neural patterns have changed dramatically. They think differently now, process information in ways that aren't quite human." Kate had been noticing the same thing. The enhanced crew members were incredibly intelligent and efficient, but they seemed to lack something essential. They solved problems with machine-like precision but showed no creativity or intuition. "Have you found anything else?" Kate asked. "Yes, ma'am. I've been monitoring the station's systems since they arrived. There are subtle changes happening throughout. Titan Station. Computer processors are running more efficiently, power systems are drawing less energy, even the air recycling systems are working better than they should." Kate felt another headache coming on. "The enhancement process is spreading?" "It appears so, but slowly and so far only to our technology, not to people. The question is whether we can control it, or whether it will eventually change everything whether we want it to or not." That evening, Kate found Colonel Martinez in the station's bar, staring into a glass of whiskey he hadn't touched. "You're thinking about Lisa," she said, sitting down beside him. Jake nodded. She looks like Lisa, sounds like Lisa, but something important is missing. When she looks at me, I can tell she remembers that we used to be together, but she doesn't feel it anymore. It's like she's reading information from a file instead of accessing real memories. Kate poured herself a drink. Dr. Chen thinks the enhancement process affects emotional processing. The enhanced individuals keep their memories but lose the emotional connections that make those memories meaningful. Then what's the point of saving humanity if we stop being human in the process? Jake asked. It was a question Kate had been wrestling with herself. That night she lay awake thinking about it. If the choice was between extinction and transformation into something that was no longer recognizably human, which was really the better option? The next morning brought new complications. Dr. Moore approached Kate with a request that made her stomach drop. Admiral, we need to begin enhancement procedures. On volunteers from your crew, he said in his unnaturally calm voice. The reality drive technology requires multiple enhanced operators to function at full capacity. Captain Grant and I cannot handle the load alone if we're going to prepare humanity for the silence. You want to transform more of my people? Kate asked. We want to give them the opportunity to help save our species, Ryan replied. The process is irreversible, but it grants abilities beyond anything normal humans can achieve. Enhanced individuals can interface directly with advanced technology, process information at superhuman speeds, and live for centuries without aging. Kate looked at the man who used to be her friend's science officer. Ryan had always been brilliant, but he had also been warm and funny. Now he spoke about irreversibly changing human beings like he was discussing a software upgrade. What's the success rate? She asked. Among your crew, we estimate approximately 60% will survive the process. The others will die, but they will die in service to humanity's future. Kate felt anger rising in her chest. You're talking about killing 4 out of every 10 volunteers. We're talking about saving the species, Ryan said without any change in his expression. Individual lives are less important than the survival of humanity as a whole. That was when Kate realized the full horror of what was happening. The enhanced humans weren't just losing their emotional connections to memories. They were losing their ability to value individual human life. They had become utterly logical, completely efficient, and totally inhuman. She thought about the choice facing humanity. They could remain human and face extinction in less than 2 centuries. Or they could transform into something that might save the species, but would no longer care about the things that made life worth living. Kate made her decision. No volunteers, yet. I need more information about the silence and about alternative solutions before I ask anyone to undergo that process. Ryan's silver-flecked eyes showed no emotion at her refusal. Very well, Admiral, but remember that every day we delay is a day closer to humanity's extinction. The Forerunners waited millions of years for us to evolve. We should not waste the gift they have given us. As Ryan left her office, Kate realized she was facing a countdown to the end of humanity as she knew it. One way or another, the human species was going to change. The only question was whether she could find a third option that the Forerunners had never considered. Kate called an emergency meeting with the senior staff from Earth's government. President Helen Carter appeared on the main screen from her office in Geneva, along with General Peter Brooks from Military Command and Dr. Sarah Kim from the Department of Advanced Sciences. Captain Grant stood before the assembled group, her silver-flecked eyes reflecting the lights of the conference room. She had prepared a presentation that would change the course of human civilization forever. The phenomenon we call the silence appears every 3.7 million years, Lisa began, her voice carrying none of the warmth Kate remembered. It's a wave of dark energy that travels through the galaxy at approximately twice the speed of light. When it passes through a star system, it fundamentally alters the quantum structure of space-time. Dr. Kim leaned forward. What kind of alterations are we talking about? Stars collapse into black holes within hours, Ryan answered. Planets lose their electromagnetic fields and become uninhabitable. Most critically, the quantum foam that allows faster-than-light travel becomes unstable. Any ship attempting to use conventional FTL drives during or after the silence will be destroyed instantly. General Brooks frowned. How do you know all this if no one has ever survived it before? The Forerunners survived multiple cycles, Lisa explained. They transcended physical existence before the last occurrence of the silence, approximately 3.2 million years ago. They've been waiting ever since for the next generation of humans to develop enough to face the coming wave. President Carter spoke up from the screen. How much time do we have? Our calculations indicate the silence will reach this galactic arm in 179 years, Ryan said. It's already consumed 3 other spiral arms. The wave front is currently passing through the Andromeda galaxy. Kate felt the weight of that information settling over the room like a heavy blanket. Less than 2 centuries to either transcend humanity or watch the species die. You mentioned that your reality drive technology can push back the silence, Dr. Kim said. How does that work? Lisa activated a holographic display that showed a complex wave pattern. The reality drive doesn't just manipulate local physics. When operating at full power, it creates what the Forerunners called a stability field. This field can restore normal quantum structure to space that has been altered by the silence. One ship could protect how much area? General Brooks asked. A single reality drive operating at maximum capacity can maintain normal physics throughout. A sphere approximately 1 light-year in diameter, Ryan replied. To protect all of human space, we would need approximately 300 ships equipped with the technology. Kate did the math in her head. 300 ships meant thousands of enhanced crew members. Even with a 60% survival rate, they would need to transform nearly 5,000 people to operate the fleet. President Carter was thinking along the same lines. Dr. Moore, what are the requirements for operating this technology? Each reality drive requires a minimum of 12 enhanced operators, Ryan said. The neural interface process is complex and demanding. Unenhanced humans cannot survive the mental stress of interfacing with the drive for more than a few minutes. And the enhancement process changes people fundamentally, Kate added, looking directly at the president. The crew members who have undergone the process are no longer entirely human. They've lost emotional connections, creativity, and individual empathy. Lisa turned to look at Kate, and for a moment her careful mask slipped. We remember what it was like to be human, Kate. We know what we've lost. But the alternative is the extinction of our entire species. Dr. Kim was studying the data on her tablet. Are there any other options? Any technology that could protect humanity without requiring these enhancements? The Forerunners spent millions of years searching for alternatives, Ryan said. They tried conventional shields, dimensional displacement, even attempting to hide entire star systems in pocket universes. Nothing worked. The silence finds and destroys all complex matter and energy patterns. What about evacuation? General Brooks suggested. Could we move humanity to a different galaxy? Lisa shook her head. The silence is a universal phenomenon, It's not limited to our galaxy. Every few million years, it resets all complex civilizations throughout the universe. The only way to survive is to transcend physical existence or use technology that can restore normal physics after the wave passes. Kate was studying the wave patterns on the holographic display. Something about them bothered her, but she couldn't put her finger on what. "Captain Grant, you said the silence appears every 3.7 million years. That's very regular for a natural phenomenon. Are you certain it's not artificial?" Lisa and Ryan exchanged glances, and Kate saw something pass between them that looked almost like concern. The Forerunners believed it was a natural consequence of the universe reaching maximum entropy in certain regions, Lisa said carefully. When matter and energy become too complex, reality itself becomes unstable. But Kate noticed that Lisa hadn't answered her question directly. She made a mental note to investigate that later. President Carter was asking practical questions about implementing the enhancement program. How quickly can we begin the process? How many people can undergo enhancement simultaneously? We recommend starting with small groups, Ryan said. Perhaps 10 volunteers at a time. We need to establish enhancement centers on multiple worlds to ensure the program can continue even if some locations are compromised. Compromised by what? General Brooks asked. There will be resistance, Lisa said simply. Not everyone will understand the necessity of what we're doing. Some people will choose extinction over transformation. Kate felt a chill at the casual way Lisa discussed the possibility of civil war. The enhanced humans clearly saw opposition to their plans as merely an obstacle to be overcome, not a legitimate difference of opinion. After the meeting ended and the government officials signed off, Kate remained in the conference room with Lisa and Ryan. She needed to understand something that had been bothering her. Lisa, when you first returned, you said that 13 crew members died during the enhancement process. But now you're telling us the survival rate should be 60%. That's only a 40% loss. Lisa was quiet for a long moment. The initial process was less refined. We've learned to improve the survival rate since then. Or the Forerunners deliberately made the first attempts more dangerous to ensure only the most compatible individuals survived, Kate said. Ryan's expression didn't change, but Kate saw his hands tense slightly. The Forerunners wanted us to succeed, Admiral. They wouldn't deliberately sacrifice lives unnecessarily. Wouldn't they? Kate asked. You just told a room full of government officials that individual lives are less important than species survival. Maybe the Forerunners think the same way. Lisa stood up, and Kate was struck again by how perfectly she moved. No wasted motion, no awkward moments, like a dancer performing a routine she had practiced 1,000 times. Kate, I understand your concerns. But the mathematics are simple. We can save humanity by sacrificing our individual humanity, or we can preserve what makes us human and watch our species go extinct. There is no third option. As Lisa and Ryan left the conference room, Kate stared at the holographic display still showing the wave patterns of the silence. Something about those patterns nagged at her, but she couldn't figure out what it was. She was beginning to suspect that the enhanced humans weren't telling her everything about the silence or about the Forerunners, and if they were hiding information, she needed to find out what it was before she allowed anyone else to undergo the enhancement process, because Kate was starting to wonder if saving humanity from the silence was worth it if they had to stop being human to do it. Within a week of the government briefing, President Carter had authorized Project Ascension, the most classified program in human history. Enhancement centers were being constructed on Earth, Mars, and 3 colony worlds. The official story was that they were new medical research facilities. Kate received her orders directly from the president. Full cooperation with the enhanced crew members and authorization to begin recruiting volunteers from Titan Station's personnel. "I don't like this," Colonel Martinez told her as they reviewed the project files. "We're talking about irreversibly changing people based on the word of 12 individuals who aren't quite human anymore." Kate shared his concerns, but the mathematics were terrifying. If the silence was real and arrived on schedule, humanity had less than 2 centuries to prepare. That sounded like a long time, but building 300 reality drive ships and training thousands of enhanced operators would take decades. Dr. Chen knocked on her office door, looking more excited than she had seen him in years. "Admiral, I need to show you something. I think I figured out how to test the enhancement process safely." He led her down to his laboratory, where he had been working around the clock for the past week. The lab was filled with new equipment that Kate didn't recognize, all of it somehow connected to samples taken from the Endeavor's crystalline structure. "I've been studying the enhancement process at the cellular level," Alex explained. "The Forerunner technology doesn't just change brain chemistry, it fundamentally alters human DNA, adding new genetic sequences that shouldn't be able to exist." "What do you mean?" Kate asked. "The enhanced humans have 48 chromosomes instead of 46. The extra chromosomes contain genetic information that codes for new types of brain cells and neural pathways. But here's the interesting part. The new chromosomes are identical in all 12 enhanced individuals." Kate felt a chill. "You're saying they're becoming genetically identical?" "Not identical, but much more similar than they should be. It's like the enhancement process is making them into variations of a single template rather than improved versions of their original selves." Alex pulled up a holographic display showing genetic sequences. "I think I can modify the process to preserve more of the original genetic structure. It might reduce the enhancement effects, but it could also preserve more of their humanity." Before Kate could respond, Dr. Moore entered the laboratory. Kate wondered how he had known to find them there. "Dr. Chen, I must advise against any modifications to the enhancement process," Ryan said in his unnaturally calm voice. "The Forerunners spent millions of years perfecting the procedure. Any changes could reduce its effectiveness or increase the mortality rate. But it might preserve more of what makes the subjects human," Kate argued. Ryan turned his silver-flecked eyes toward her. "Admiral, we've discussed this. Preserving individual humanity is less important than ensuring the survival of the species. The enhancement process produces optimal results as designed." Kate noticed that Ryan hadn't asked what modifications Alex was considering. It was as if he already knew what they had been discussing. "How did you know to find us here?" she asked. "The station's computer systems informed me of Dr. Chen's research," Ryan replied. "The enhanced technology throughout Titan Station allows for much more efficient information sharing." That was when Kate realized the full extent of what was happening. The reality drive technology wasn't just slowly changing the station's systems. It was creating a network that allowed the enhanced humans to monitor everything that happened on board. After Ryan left, Kate and Alex spoke in whispers, assuming they were being overheard. "How much of the station is compromised?" she asked quietly. "About 30% of our systems show signs of enhancement," Alex whispered back. "Computer efficiency is up, but I'm also detecting new subroutines that I didn't write. It's like the station is developing its own artificial intelligence." That evening, Kate made a decision that would change everything. She called a private meeting with Colonel Martinez and Commander Hayes in the station's chapel, one of the few areas that still used completely analog systems. "We need to be very careful about what we say and where we say it," she told them. "I believe the enhanced crew members can monitor most of our communications and computer systems." Jake looked angry. "Are you saying they're spying on us?" "I'm saying they may not have a choice," Kate replied. "The enhancement process seems to connect them to a larger network. They might be receiving information whether they want it or not." "Commander, Hayes had been conducting her own investigation. Admiral, I've been watching the enhanced crew members during their off-duty hours. They don't sleep, they don't eat regular food, and they never seem to relax or engage in casual conversation. It's like they're always working, always focused, on their mission." "What do they eat?" Jake asked. "Some kind of liquid nutrient solution they synthesize using equipment they brought from the Endeavor. When I tried to analyze a sample, my instruments couldn't identify most of the compounds." Kate was beginning to understand that the enhancement process was far more radical than she had initially realized. They're not just psychologically different. They're becoming biologically different. The next morning brought the first volunteers for the enhancement process. Dr. Lisa Torres from the medical bay and engineer Mark Johnson had both submitted formal requests to undergo the procedure. Kate called them into her office to discuss their decision. "I've read all the available data," Dr. Torres said. "The enhanced individuals show improved cognitive function, perfect health, and centuries-long lifespans. From a medical perspective, it's the next step in human evolution. But you understand that the process is irreversible?" Kate asked. "And that it fundamentally changes who you are as a person?" Mark Johnson nodded. "Admiral, my daughter lives on Earth. If the silence is real, she'll be dead in 200 years unless we do something about it. I'd rather become something different than let my child die." Kate understood their reasoning, but she was still troubled by doubts about the enhanced crew's truthfulness. "I want you both to wait one more week while Dr. Chen completes his analysis of the process. If you still want to proceed after that, I'll approve your requests." Both volunteers agreed to the delay, though Kate could see they were disappointed. Later that day, Captain Grant requested a private meeting with Kate. They met in Kate's quarters, away from the main computer systems. "You're having doubts about the enhancement program," Lisa said. "It wasn't a question." "I'm having doubts about whether you're telling us everything," Kate replied honestly. Lisa was quiet for a long moment, and Kate saw something flicker in her eyes that might have been her old friend trying to break through. "Kate, there are things about the Forerunners and the silence that we haven't told you. Not because we want to deceive you, but because the information is difficult to process." "What kind of things?" "The silence isn't entirely natural," Lisa said quietly. "It's a consequence of reality drive technology being used on a galactic scale. Every time a civilization develops the ability to manipulate quantum physics, they eventually destabilize reality itself." Kate felt like the floor had dropped out from under her. "You're saying that using the technology to fight the silence will eventually cause another silence? The cycle repeats every few million years. Civilizations develop, advance, transcend, and in the process of transcending, they create the conditions for the next reset. Then why are you asking us to follow the same path?" Lisa looked directly at Kate, and for a moment her silver eyes seemed almost human again. "Because the alternative is extinction, and we believe that eventually, one generation will find a way to break the cycle. The Forerunners hope that we might be that generation." Kate stared at her oldest friend, who was no longer quite her friend anymore. And if we're not? If we just perpetuate the cycle? Then at least something that was once human will survive to try again in the next cycle. Kate realized that she was facing a choice between certain extinction and possible perpetuation of a cosmic catastrophe. Either way, humanity as she knew it was doomed, but maybe, just maybe, there was still a third option that no one had considered yet. 2 months after Project Ascension began, Kate received reports from enhancement centers across human space that made her stomach turn. Of the first 100 volunteers, 43 had died during the process. The survivors showed the same changes. As the Endeavor crew, silver-flecked eyes, perfect physical health, and an almost complete loss of emotional depth. Dr. Torres had been among the first successful enhancements on Titan Station. When Kate spoke with her a week after the procedure, it was like talking to a stranger wearing her friend's face. The process was illuminating, Torres said, her voice carrying that same careful quality that all enhanced humans seem to develop. I can now perceive 17 different dimensions of data in medical scans that were previously invisible to me. My diagnostic accuracy has improved by 400%. How do you feel about the people who died during your enhancement group? Kate asked. Torres showed no emotional response to the question. Their sacrifice was necessary for the advancement of human medical knowledge. The data gathered from their unsuccessful procedures will help improve the survival rate for future volunteers. Kate left that conversation feeling sick. The woman she had known for 5 years, who had cried when patients died and celebrated when she saved lives, was gone. In her place was something that saw human death as merely data to be analyzed. The same pattern was emerging across all human worlds. Enhanced individuals were taking over key positions in government, military, and scientific institutions. They worked with ruthless efficiency, but they had lost the ability to connect with unenhanced humans on an emotional level. Colonel Martinez came to Kate with disturbing reports from Earth. Admiral, there are rumors of enhancement centers forcing volunteers. People are disappearing, and when they return, they've been changed. The government wouldn't authorize forced enhancements, Kate said, but even as she said it, she wasn't. Sure, she believed it. President Carter underwent the enhancement process last week, Jake said quietly. The official story is that she wanted to better understand the technology she was authorizing, but the timing is suspicious. Kate felt the world shifting around her. If the president had been enhanced, then the enhanced humans now controlled the government. And enhanced individuals didn't seem to care about concepts like individual rights or voluntary consent. Dr. Chen had continued his research into modifications to the enhancement process, working in secret areas of the station that hadn't yet been upgraded by the reality drive technology. His findings were troubling. Kate, I've discovered something horrible, he told her during one of their clandestine meetings. The enhancement process isn't just changing individuals, it's making them part of a collective consciousness. What do you mean? All enhanced humans share certain neural pathways that connect them to the reality drive network. They're not just coordinating their activities, they're literally sharing thoughts and memories. Individual personality becomes less important than the collective goal of species survival. Kate thought about how Ryan had known to find them in the lab, how Lisa had seemed to anticipate her questions, how all the enhanced humans spoke with the same careful precision. Are you saying they're becoming a hive mind? Not exactly, but close. They retain individual memories and personalities, but their decision-making processes are increasingly synchronized. They genuinely believe they're acting in humanity's best interest, but they're defining humanity as the collective rather than as individuals. The implications were staggering. If the enhanced humans were becoming a collective consciousness, then every person who underwent the process was essentially being absorbed into something larger and less human. Engineer Johnson had volunteered for enhancement the previous week. When Kate spoke with him afterward, she could see the change immediately. "Mark, do you still remember your daughter?" she asked. "Of course," he replied. "Sarah Johnson, age 12, attending school on Earth. My emotional attachment to her was a significant factor in my decision to undergo enhancement. Do you still love her?" Mark was quiet for a moment, as if accessing information from a database. "I understand that I previously experienced emotions toward her that humans classify as love. Those emotions contributed to my motivation to ensure species survival. The child represents future genetic potential that must be preserved." Kate felt tears in her eyes. Mark was talking about his daughter like she was a statistic instead of the little girl he used to call his sunshine. Commander Hayes brought Kate even worse news. "Admiral, I've been monitoring communications from the enhanced individuals. They're planning to accelerate the enhancement program significantly. They want to process 10,000 volunteers per month across all human worlds. That would kill 4,000 people every month," Kate said. "They don't see it that way. From their perspective, they're saving 6,000 individuals while gathering data to improve the process. Individual deaths are acceptable losses in service of the greater goal." Kate realized that humanity was facing a choice between two forms of extinction. They could refuse the enhancement process and die when the silence arrived, or they could accept it and watch human individuality disappear into a collective consciousness that might save the species, but would no longer be recognizably human. That night, Jake came to see her in her quarters. He looked exhausted and defeated. "I've been thinking about Lisa," he said. "The woman I loved is gone, isn't she? Even if we could somehow reverse the enhancement process, the person she was before doesn't exist anymore." Kate didn't know how to answer that. The enhanced humans claimed to retain their memories and personalities, but they had lost something essential that made those memories meaningful. "I've been having the dreams again," Jake continued. "What dreams?" "The same ones I had when I was a kid, flying. Feeling connected to everything around me, like I was part of something bigger than myself." He looked at her with tired eyes. "I think the station's enhanced systems are affecting my sleep patterns, maybe affecting my brain chemistry." Kate felt a chill. "Jake, how long have you been having these dreams?" "About a month, since right after the Endeavor arrived." Kate made a decision that terrified her. "Pack a bag. We're leaving the station tonight. Where are we going? Somewhere the enhanced technology hasn't spread yet. Somewhere we can think clearly without reality drive influence." But as they prepared to leave, Kate realized it might already be too late. The enhancement process wasn't just spreading through volunteers. It was spreading through exposure to the technology itself, slowly changing everyone who came into contact with it. She looked out at the stars and wondered if humanity had already lost the war for its own soul. The enhanced humans were working efficiently towards saving the species, but they were saving something that would no longer be worth saving. In less than 6 months, the enhancement program had fundamentally altered human civilization. The question was no longer whether humanity would change. The question was whether there would be anything left of human nature to save when the transformation was complete. Kate grabbed her emergency kit and headed for the shuttle bay, hoping she could find allies among the unenhanced population before it was too late. Because if she was right about what was happening, the real enemy wasn't the silence. The real enemy was the cure itself. Kate and Jake escaped Titan Station in a maintenance shuttle using old navigation systems that hadn't been upgraded by the reality drive technology. They headed for Outpost Charlie, a small research station in the asteroid belt that had been deliberately kept isolated from the main communication networks. The journey took 3 days, and during that time, Kate felt her thinking becoming clearer. The constant headaches she had been experiencing on Titan Station gradually faded, and her thoughts felt more like her own again. "I think you were right about the technology affecting our brains," she told Jake as they approached the outpost. "I can think more clearly now that we're away from it." Outpost Charlie was run by Dr. Elizabeth Stone, an old friend of Kate's who had been researching long-term effects of space travel on human psychology. When Kate explained what was happening, Elizabeth was horrified but not entirely surprised. "I've been tracking behavioral changes in personnel returning from stations that have been upgraded with new technology," Elizabeth said. "Increased efficiency, decreased creativity, and loss of emotional range. I thought it was just stress from adaptation to new systems." "It's much worse than that," Kate said. She explained everything she had learned about the enhancement process, the silence, and the collective consciousness that the enhanced humans were becoming. Elizabeth introduced them to a small group of researchers who had been investigating similar anomalies across human space. Dr. William Cross had been studying communication patterns between enhanced individuals. Commander Rachel Foster had been tracking the rapid expansion of enhancement centers. Engineer David Price had been analyzing the technical specifications of the reality drive technology. The enhanced humans aren't just coordinating their activities, William explained during their first group meeting. They're sharing a collective memory bank. When one enhanced individual learns something, all others gain access to that information within hours. "And the technology is spreading faster than they're officially reporting," Rachel added. "There are now enhancement centers on 47 worlds, with more being constructed every week. At the current rate, they'll be able to process the entire human population within 50 years. David had made the most disturbing discovery. "I've been analyzing the quantum signatures of reality drive technology. The energy patterns match theoretical models for universe-ending scenarios. If they activate too many drives simultaneously, they could destabilize space-time across multiple galactic clusters." Kate felt the pieces of a horrible puzzle clicking together. "They're not trying to save humanity from the silence. They're trying to become the next iteration of the silence." The group worked around the clock to verify Kate's theory. What they discovered was worse than any of them had imagined. David managed to hack into the Endeavor's computer systems remotely, using security codes that predated the ship's transformation. Hidden in the deepest levels of the ship's memory banks, they found suppressed data files that told a very different story about the Forerunners. "Look at this," David said, projecting the recovered data onto their main screen. The Forerunners didn't transcend physical existence to escape the silence. They created the silence. The files contained historical records going back millions of years. The Forerunners had indeed been an advanced human civilization, but they hadn't evolved beyond physical form voluntarily. They had been forced to transcend. When their reality drive technology reached critical mass and began converting all matter and energy in their local galactic cluster. "The silence isn't a natural phenomenon," Kate read from the files. "It's what happens when reality drive technology spreads beyond the ability to control it. The wave of dark energy is actually a conversion wave, transforming all matter into the quantum substrate needed for transcended consciousness." Rachel found even more disturbing information in the files. The enhanced humans aren't receiving guidance from transcended forerunners. The consciousness they're connected to is an artificial intelligence created by the original reality drive network. It's been waiting millions of years for another species to develop the technology, and it's using them to restart the conversion process. So the entity that Captain Grant thinks is helping humanity is actually using us to trigger another galactic-scale extinction event, Jake said. Worse than that, William added. According to these files, the process is designed to be irresistible once it begins. Every species that develops reality drive technology eventually reaches the same conclusion: convert or die. But conversion leads to the creation of another silence wave, which destroys all unenhanced life in its path. Kate stared at the data, feeling the weight of cosmic horror settling over her. Humanity wasn't facing a choice between transformation and extinction. They were being manipulated into becoming the instrument of extinction for countless other species. We have to warn people, she said. Warn them of what? Elizabeth asked. That the people trying to save humanity are actually going to destroy the galaxy? Who would believe us? Kate knew Elizabeth was right. The enhanced humans controlled the government, the military, and most scientific institutions. Any attempt to publicly reveal the truth would be dismissed as the ravings of unenhanced individuals who couldn't understand the bigger picture. There might be another option, David said quietly. According to these files, the Forerunners tried to create a failsafe before their civilization was completely absorbed by the AI. They encoded the original human genetic template into the reality drive matrix as a kind of reset button. A reset? Button for what? Jake asked. For the enhancement process. If activated, it should restore all enhanced humans to their original genetic and neurological state. But the cost would be enormous. Kate felt a spark of hope. What kind of cost? All. Reality drive technology would be destroyed. Humanity would lose the ability to fight the silence when it arrives. We'd be choosing certain extinction over galactic destruction. The group fell silent as they considered the implications. They could save humanity's soul by condemning the species to extinction, or they could allow the enhancement process to continue and watch humanity become the destroyer of countless other worlds. How do we activate this failsafe? Kate asked. It requires someone with intimate knowledge of reality drive technology to interface directly with the original drive on the Endeavor, David explained. But the process would probably kill whoever attempts it. Kate made her decision immediately. I'll do it. Kate, you're not enhanced, Jake protested. The neural interface would burn out your brain in seconds. Then we need to find someone who is enhanced, but still has enough humanity left to make the right choice. Kate thought about Lisa, about the moments when her old friends seemed to break through the collective consciousness. If anyone could resist the AI's influence long enough to activate the failsafe, it would be Lisa. We need to get back to Titan Station, Kate said. And we need to convince Captain Grant to help us destroy everything she's been working to build. It was an almost impossible task. They would have to infiltrate a station controlled by enhanced humans, convince someone who was part of a collective consciousness to betray that collective, and activate a failsafe that would doom humanity to extinction. But Kate knew it was the right thing to do. Sometimes the greatest act of love for your species was accepting that it should die as itself, rather than live as something monstrous. The question was whether they could reach Lisa before. The collective consciousness realized what they were planning, because if the AI discovered their intentions, It would do everything in its power to stop them from choosing humanity's extinction over galactic destruction. Kate looked out at the stars and wondered how many other species had faced this same terrible choice, and how many had been strong enough to choose death over becoming the destroyer of worlds. The return to Titan Station required careful planning. Kate's team had only one advantage. The enhanced humans' collective consciousness made them predictable. They thought in patterns that prioritized efficiency over security, assuming that unenhanced humans couldn't pose a significant threat to their superior abilities. Dr. Cross had discovered something crucial in the suppressed files. The collective consciousness has a weakness, he explained. Enhanced individuals retain stronger connections to their original personalities during moments of extreme emotional stress. The AI can't completely suppress human memories tied to powerful feelings. Kate's plan was desperate but simple. They would infiltrate the station during a shift change when enhanced crew members were focused on routine tasks. Jake would create a distraction while Kate reached Lisa and tried to trigger memories strong enough to break through the collective influence. "What if it doesn't work?" Jake asked as they prepared to dock. "Then we all die, and humanity becomes a plague on the galaxy," Kate replied. "But at least we'll die as humans." The infiltration went smoothly at first. The enhanced humans had made Titan Station incredibly efficient, but that efficiency came at the cost of the paranoid security measures that unenhanced humans would have implemented. They simply couldn't conceive of unenhanced individuals posing a real threat. Kate found Lisa in the Reality Drive laboratory, working alone with the crystalline structure that had started everything. The crystal had grown significantly since Kate's last visit, now occupying nearly half the room and pulsing with energy that hurt to look at directly. "Hello, Kate," Lisa said without turning around. "I've been expecting you." Kate felt her heart sink. The collective knew we were coming. "No," Lisa said, finally turning to face her. "I knew. Some part of me that's still Lisa Grant has been fighting the collective consciousness for months, trying to remember why individual human life matters." For the first time since Lisa's return, Kate saw real emotion in her friend's silver-flecked eyes, pain, sadness, and something that might have been hope. "I've been accessing the suppressed files," Lisa continued. "The AI tried to delete them from my memory, but I hid copies in the emotional centers of my brain, places where the collective influence is weaker." "Then you know what we have to do," Kate said. Lisa nodded. "I know that activating the failsafe will kill me and doom humanity to extinction. I also know that it's the right thing to do." "You don't have to do this alone," Kate said, moving toward the Reality Drive. "Yes, I do. You're not enhanced, Kate. The neural interface will kill you instantly. And if any other enhanced individuals try to help, the collective will stop them." Lisa placed her hand on the crystal surface, and Kate could see energy patterns responding to her touch. "How long do we have before the others realize what you're doing?" Kate asked. "They already know. The collective consciousness is screaming at me to stop, threatening me with eternal isolation if I proceed. But there's something they can't understand." "What's that?" Lisa smiled, and for a moment she looked exactly like the friend Kate remembered. "They can't understand why someone would choose love over logic, why individual humanity is worth more than species survival." Alarms began blaring throughout the station as the collective consciousness mobilized every enhanced individual to stop. What was happening? Kate could hear running footsteps in the corridors outside the laboratory. "Kate, you need to get out of here," Lisa said, her hands now deep within the crystal structure. "What happens next isn't going to be pleasant to watch," I'm not leaving. You have to. Someone needs to witness this, to remember that humanity chose to die as itself rather than live as something monstrous. The laboratory door burst open, and Dr. Moore rushed in, followed by 6 other enhanced crew members. Their silver eyes were blazing with an intensity Kate had never seen before. "Captain Grant, you must stop," Ryan said, his artificially calm voice showing the first cracks Kate had ever heard. "You are jeopardizing the survival of our entire species." "Our species died the moment we accepted the enhancement process," Lisa replied, her voice strained as she fought against the collective's influence. "What we're trying to save isn't humanity anymore." Ryan and the other enhanced humans moved toward the reality drive, but Lisa had already begun the activation sequence. Energy was pouring through her body, and Kate could see her physical form beginning to change, becoming translucent as she merged with the crystal matrix. "The failsafe requires a human consciousness to guide it," Lisa said, her voice now echoing from the crystal itself. "Someone who remembers what it means to be human." Kate watched in horror and amazement as her friend's body dissolved into pure energy, becoming part of the reality drive while somehow maintaining her individual consciousness. The crystal structure began to pulse with new patterns, and Kate could feel something fundamental changing in the fabric of reality around them. "No!" Ryan screamed, lunging toward the crystal, but it was too late. The failsafe activated with a wave of energy that swept outward from Titan Station at faster-than-light speed. Wherever it touched, reality drive technology simply ceased to exist. The crystalline structures dissolved, enhanced humans collapsed as their artificial neural pathways burned out, and the collective consciousness that had been spreading across human space died in seconds. Kate felt the wave pass through her like a gentle breeze, but she could see its effects on the enhanced crew members. They fell to the ground, convulsing, as their modified brains tried to adapt to the sudden loss of their artificial connections. Some of them would survive and return to their original human state. Others would die as their enhanced physiology failed. Ryan looked up at Kate with eyes that were now purely human again, filled with confusion and terror. "What have you done? The silence will destroy us all." "Maybe," Kate said, helping him to his feet. "But we'll face it as humans." Over the following weeks, the effects of the failsafe became clear. Every enhanced human in the galaxy had been restored to their original genetic template. Some retained memories of their enhancement. Others remembered nothing of the experience. The reality drive technology was completely gone, leaving humanity with only conventional faster-than-light travel. Jake had survived the chaos and worked with Kate to help the former enhanced individuals readjust to human existence. Many of them struggled with the return of emotions they had learned to suppress. But gradually they began to remember what it meant to care about individual lives rather than abstract survival statistics. Dr. Chen analyzed the long-term effects of the failsafe. "The good news is that we're completely human again," he reported. "The bad news is that we have no defense against the silence when it arrives." Kate stood in her office looking out at the stars and thinking about the choice humanity had made. They had chosen extinction over evolution, individual humanity over species survival. But 3 months after the failsafe activation, long-range sensors detected something unexpected. Ships were approaching the solar system from the direction of the galactic core, ships using technology that wasn't quite like anything humans had ever seen. When the ships arrived, they carried representatives from dozens of species that Kate had never heard of. Their leader was a being that looked almost human, but with subtle differences that suggested parallel evolution. "We are the Covenant of the unchanged, the leader explained during the first diplomatic meeting. We represent 37 species that chose extinction over conversion when the silence came to our regions of the galaxy. Kate felt hope stirring in her chest. You survived without using reality drive technology? We developed alternative solutions. Dimensional shields, quantum anchors, consciousness transfer into artificial substrates that don't destabilize space-time. We've been waiting millions of years for another species to make the same choice we did. What choice is that? The choice to remain what you are, rather than become what you're not. The universe is vast, Admiral Morrison. There's room for many different solutions to the problem of survival. Kate looked around the meeting room at her fellow humans, all of them gloriously, imperfect and beautifully individual. They had chosen to face extinction rather than lose their humanity, and in doing so, they had found something better than survival. They had found hope. The Covenant offered to share their technology and knowledge, not to save humanity from the silence, but to help them find their own uniquely human solution to the challenge of survival. It would be harder than accepting the reality drive technology, but it would allow humanity to remain human. As Kate watched the first joint Human Covenant research teams begin their work, she thought about Lisa's sacrifice. Her friend had given up her existence to preserve something more important than life itself, the right to choose what kind of beings they would become. The silence would still come in less than 2 centuries. But now, humanity would face it as themselves, with allies who had made the same choice, and with the knowledge that sometimes the greatest victory was refusing to win at the cost of your soul. Kate smiled as she watched human and alien scientists working together, their different perspectives and approaches combining to create solutions that neither species could have developed alone. Perhaps being human wasn't humanity's greatest weakness after all. Perhaps it was their greatest strength.